Hi everyone, I'm Christy Goranson and welcome to Washington Grown. It's a given that every holiday we end up with massive amounts of leftover food that needs to be repurposed. But a lot of people don't know that the farmers in our state are also reusing products and even water. In this episode, we're talking all about leftovers. We'll head to FareStart in Seattle to use the classic holiday leftovers, mashed potatoes, and make some salmon cakes. Who knew that leftovers could be so decadent? Then we'll chat about the great Missoula floods and see how they left us with some beautiful landscape and impacted Washington agriculture. I grew up in Washington and I had no idea this was here. And we'll see how farmers all across our state are reusing leftover irrigation water to conserve while staying efficient. All that and much more on Washington Grown.
Oh!
Woo! Is that...
Are you ready to cook me up?
Okay, I don't have the hang of this.
So this is where we get our water.
Cheers.
Hopefully they won't eat my shoelaces. Today, I'm at FareStart in Seattle. While locals know it as a great lunch spot, FareStart is a unique place because in addition to being a wonderful restaurant, it's also a culinary job training and placement program for disadvantaged individuals.
Kids that I see that are coming through here, this is their first opportunity to be proud of themselves.
And when I tell people, why do you go there every week? The food is really good.
Well, one is close, it's great food, and I think more so it's a great opportunity to introduce people to FareStart who may not be familiar.
And it's good food, right?
And it's great food.
Tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you here.
I came from Las Vegas, that's where I was born and raised. I exited the military here at Fort Lewis, so that's what brought me here, and I've had some great ups and some downs here. But coming to this program has put me on my feet on a new level and an empowerment in my mindset that I can do anything.
I met with executive chef Matthew Lassoff to learn more about the program. This is a beautiful place, but it has a mission.
Our mission is to train cooks and to help elevate lives. We've had some wonderful success stories with our students, and the majority of our students are hired before graduation.
So what's next for you after this?
Ooh, what's next for me? Actually, I work at Safeco now, and that's before getting out of school
Yeah.
by way of coming through this program.
That is incredible. So it just opens up all sorts of doors?
It has opened up a lot of doors for myself and a lot of students.
Later on in the show, Chef Matthew is going to teach me how to make some seared potato cakes using leftover mashed potatoes. Crispy on the outside and soft on the inside.
Yes, I think we did a good job there, Chris.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely delicious.
Leftovers aren't only about food. Farmers across the Columbia Basin utilize leftover irrigation water to conserve and stay efficient with their farming practices. Now I'm off to meet up with potato farmer Mel Calloway at her family farm in Quincy to see how they repurpose their leftover resources.
We've been here since 1951 when the water was delivered, and so yes, we grow potatoes as well as wheat, and then we grow grain corn and dry edible beans like kidney beans and cranberry beans. Yeah.
So when the water was delivered, that is like kind of the key, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Before water was here, there wasn't anything here but lots of scrub brush and weeds, I guess. So, yeah, so until that happened, once the water was delivered, then we learned how to farm this ground. It's very sandy soil. It doesn't have a lot of organic matter in it. And so really water was the key to get some crops growing and get some organic matter back into the ground, and it's incredibly productive ground. So this is our delivery canal to our field. It came under from that lateral canal. It came under the road.
Yeah.
And there's a suction and a pump on the circle back there that lifts the water up and then irrigates the field with it. So any water that doesn't get pulled up into the system and a little leftover water goes on down to the next farm, and any water that doesn't get used here eventually gets used on a farm somewhere in the basin. So thousands of miles long, but an incredibly efficient system to water the fields.
Now, so the way things are set up today, seems like you can really conserve.
Oh,
And-
definitely. Yeah, water's really important to us here in the basin. I mean, without it, we wouldn't be one of the most productive areas in the United States. And we're very consistent in the products that we deliver out of this state, and it's because we have water. Yeah, we can control it.
I wanted to take a closer look at the Calloway potato fields, so Mel took me over the bridge and through the fields to check them out.
This is a russet Burbank field. It's contracted for frozen potato production.
Okay.
Russet Burbanks are pretty large and blocky, and they just make an excellent French fry. We have water monitoring systems located in every field, and then we always use our shovel to dig things up and find out, just to kind of look underneath and what's going on. So
Mel showed me what to look for when checking in on the potatoes.
here's the potato hill underneath
Okay.
all this foliage here. So
This is the mound. That
yep. So one of the things we definitely look for is to make sure this foliage is all nice and healthy underneath here, and it is.
Mel says these potatoes still have a few more months to grow before they'll be harvested.
It's got a long ways to go.
How big will these get?
I mean, he'll get about that big, so he'll get quite a bit bigger.
Yeah.
That's only about a 6-ounce size, and we want him to be 12 to 16.
We ended our tour by visiting the equipment shed. This harvesting equipment helps the Callaways bring in up to 14,000 tons, or a football field of potatoes. What do you want people to know about the farmers of Washington State?
The majority of us are family farms, and this is our livelihood, and it's important to us to preserve that livelihood and pass on the next generation. I think we take a lot of pride in the fact that we have the ability to grow food, and not just for Washington State, but for the rest of the world.
And you're conservationists too.
Definitely, yeah. We definitely value the fact that we have irrigation water here on a consistent basis. So I think it's important that people know we put a lot of value in the entire environment.
A lot of love. And you feed the world.
And to feed the world, definitely.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Using leftovers can save time in meal preparation and get food from fridge to table in a jiff. However, it's good to know a few facts beyond the sniff test. When it comes to leftovers, certainly the best rule is when in doubt, throw it out. But to get the most out of your food, there's more to consider. The longer a cooked perishable food like meat or eggs has been in your refrigerator or freezer, the more the vitamin content declines. That's because vitamins are vulnerable to oxygen and temperature changes. As food sits in your fridge, bacteria, mold, and yeast may start to grow. So to keep food safe and at peak quality, quickly refrigerate perishable foods like meat, fish, dairy, and eggs. Don't let them sit more than 2 hours at room temperature. Uncooked foods such as cold potato salads and sandwiches should be refrigerated as soon as possible. Cooked meats can stay in the fridge for 3 to 4 days, and in the freezer for 2 to 3 months. Fresh berries can remain in the fridge for 3 to 5 days and in the freezer for up to a year. Fresh vegetables can stay 3 to 7 days in the fridge, but can be frozen for 8 months to a year. By following a few safety tips, you can keep your Washington-grown foods safe, from farm to table and from fridge to plate.
Coming up, we're back in Seattle at FareStart to use some leftover mashed potatoes and whip up some salmon cakes.
Absolutely delicious.
We're back in downtown Seattle at FareStart. While this restaurant is a lunchtime favorite, it also doubles as a culinary job training placement program for disadvantaged individuals.
Putting together unique local ingredients and helping the community at the same time. And that's kind of God's work. So we have to really support it as much as we can. That's really important.
Well, one is close, it's great food, and I think more so it's a great opportunity to introduce people to FareStart who may not be familiar.
And it's good food, right?
And it's great food.
I've had some great ups and some downs here. But coming to this program has put me on my feet on a new level and an empowerment in my mindset that I can do anything.
So what's next for you after this?
Ooh, what's next for me? Actually, I work at Safeco now, and that's before getting out of school by way of coming to this program.
That is incredible. So it just opens up all sorts of doors?
It has opened up a lot of doors for myself and a lot of students.
Now I'm headed back into the kitchen to meet with Executive Chef Matthew Lassoff and learn how to cook a delicious dish using leftovers. What are we gonna make today?
We're going to make potato cakes with smoked salmon, creme fraiche, a little bit of microgreens, and some truffle oil.
That sounds awesome. So potato cakes, fairly easy to do, right?
Incredibly easy, incredibly quick to do, and really perfect use for repurposing, if you would, the mashed potatoes from the meal.
Because let's be honest, sometimes if you want to heat up leftover mashed potatoes, it's kind of like, yeah, they don't taste quite as good.
They don't really microwave well because of
Right.
the cream and butter content in it, but in our recipe, it's very quick, very easy to do, and a completely different flavor profile for that.
Okay. The first step is to make an egg wash.
One little crack right
One
there.
little crack.
And
Well, I
you know,
can't
you can
do it with one hand.
You can do it with 2 hands. That's okay. It's not cheating if you use 2. And I crack it just right
Okay,
open
I'll
like
try
that.
with one hand.
You can give it a
It's not
shot.
going to be pretty. We might
There
be.
you go. We can fish out the shell. Oh, nice job.
That is the
Wonderful.
first time I
Wow.
have ever done that.
Very impressive. High five. Way to go.
After we finish cracking the eggs, our next stop is to whip them together and add our milk.
And a lot of times we'll encourage our students to whip on figure 8 just so they can,
Like that?
exactly like that.
See, I'm already learning
No,
stuff.
you are a natural. You have definitely got that.
Once our egg wash is ready, we can start making our potato cakes.
So,
Okay, so-
make the patty. So form it with your fingers right there. Lovely.
Okay.
And that's good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, and then you can put it right in the flour
Okay.
and dust it, and that's okay. And then you can take it and dunk it right in the egg wash.
Okay.
And you want to be careful not to
Other
splash. You don't want
Oh,
egg on
okay.
your face.
No,
That's it.
I've been there.
And right in.
Okay, like that, and then here,
Just perfect like that.
and then.
Yeah, a little panko over. Lovely.
After we finish breading the cakes, our next step is to fry them. As we wait for the potato cakes to finish cooking, we begin to start plating.
And we've got our house smoked salmon, which
this is house smoked.
This is house smoked, so we brine it. We put it in a brine overnight, and then we hot smoke it for about 2 hours until it comes up to temp. And our students, again, have done all of this and
Yeah.
do a lot of the work that we
That
do
is
here.
great. First, we place the potato cake on a small bed of microgreens.
We've got that, and I'm going to take just a little creme fraiche and put it right on there.
Right
You
on
want to do
top?
that with those other
Sure, I
two?
can. Dollop.
Just a dollop.
Okay.
And then we can take just a little slice of that lovely salmon, and we can all set it right on top.
That is some good looking salmon too.
And then we're just going to take, for just a little bit of final taste, I'm going to put just a little truffle all over that.
Oh, truffle oil. That's kind of
That
a
is-
special thing.
And here we go.
That looks so beautiful. Look at that.
So-
Ta-da!
Let's do it.
Dig in. Oh, those look crispy on the outside and soft on the
Yes,
inside.
I think we did a good job there, Kristen.
Yes.
Oh my, delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Who knew that leftovers could be so decadent? Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
To get the recipe for FareStart's potato cakes, log on to our website at wagrown.com.
When people think of samples, they're probably not thinking of leftovers, but they haven't tried these tasty leftovers from Chef Matthew here at FareStart. Let's take these to the streets of Seattle and see what people think. Anybody interested in trying some leftovers? They're good leftovers. Would you like to try some leftovers? Anybody like to try some leftovers? Anybody like to try some leftovers? Anybody? Ah, come on. This isn't gonna work. I'm telling you, this is not gonna work. I figured I'd better change my approach if I wanted anyone to try these. Would anybody like to try some potato cakes and smoked salmon? Oh, yeah. So, Kyle, I gotta ask a big question. Do you eat leftovers?
I do.
We've taken mashed potatoes and repurposed them. Made a potato cake here with some smoked salmon, some creme fraiche, and some microgreens. So why don't you take a try of one of these?
Sure, why not?
It's pretty good. It's amazing.
So good.
Yeah, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I got some leftovers. Probably wouldn't think of that, huh?
No, I'd be like, dude, I'm cool.
What's one of your favorite leftovers of all time?
Tacos, potatoes, man. I love potatoes.
Steak. Leftover mom's lasagna, man.
Leftover mom's lasagna. What makes that so good?
Because mom hooks it up, man.
I've got 2 leftovers. I've got 2 leftovers left and no one to help eat Oh,
Nobody?
Look who it is.
Nobody? You know I love leftovers.
Yes, you do. All right, you know what? Let's do it right here.
Let's do it. Coming up, we're in the kitchen at Second Harvest and using leftover chicken to make a delicious chicken pot pie. Now I'm in central Washington at beautiful Frenchman Coulee. These stunning landscapes were created by what is known as the Missoula floods. I'm meeting with geologist Nick Zentner to learn more about the floods and how they impacted Washington's landscape and agriculture. This is amazing. I grew up in Washington and I had no idea this was here. So Frenchman Coulee, that's what this is called?
That's what it's called.
Okay, so what is it exactly?
Well, it's really important geologically, and there's selected places out in eastern Washington that have just incredible valleys, and we call those coulees, and they were carved by the Ice Age floods.
Nick says this specific coulee was formed from the Missoula floods.
There was a lot of water in Montana in a glacial lake called Glacial Lake Missoula, and then that water burst quickly through northern Idaho when there was an ice dam that broke, and that water came right through here and other select spots in eastern Washington. And for many, many years, it was poorly understood how these big valleys formed. And this is famous. I mean, in geology circles, people know the channeled scablands of eastern Washington around the world.
What would the landscape look like if the floods had never happened?
That's a good question because it has an imprint on the agriculture in eastern Washington, is that the rolling hills down in southeastern Washington by Pullman, where you went to school, that used to be all of eastern Washington. So before the Ice Age, those rolling hills were across the entire, basically from the Rockies to the Cascades, just rolling hills of good, rich soil. And then these floods really hit certain spots particularly hard, and those hills were swept away just like that.
Some areas were left barren by the floods, while others benefited, being enriched by new topsoil.
The floods picked up the soils and then redeposited them downstream when the water stopped. So the Pasco Basin, for instance, down by the Tri-Cities, there's good soils there because the soils were picked up here and then dropped down there.
Now there's a name for these columns, right?
The climbers call them the feathers.
Oh, really?
Otherwise,
in geology terms.
well, we do call them, it's columnar basalt.
Columnar basalt.
Right, so as the lava cooled, it formed these cracks, and those are columns that formed from the cooling of the lava 15 million years ago. And it's kind of crazy that the floods took all those columns away except for one little row, one little picket fence. It's just as open on the other side.
The picket fence.
Hey, I think we just did something here. Let's get that on the map.
I think so. Now, Tomas is in Moses Lake to see how manure is turned into rich fertilizer.
First, I'm meeting up with Todd Hines, the president of Cascade Agronomics. So what does Cascade Agronomics do? I kind of got an idea.
From the product here, yeah. We actually provide fertilizer, natural fertilizer and conventional fertilizer, as well as agronomy services to our customers.
So tell me about the differences between natural and other types of fertilizer. What makes this, I mean, this is it, right? I mean, you know what, let's get into this. This is it, right here. This is about as raw as it gets, right?
That's as raw as it gets.
Yeah, that's it. What are the benefits of natural fertilizer?
There's a lot of other micros and different things that you get from natural fertilizer that you don't get from a conventional fertilizer.
Todd says the first step is to gather the manure from the feedlots and lay it into rows. Then they use a compost turner and churn up the rows to heat up the piles.
Typically we'll bring this out, row it up, we'll run through it 4 times.
Okay.
It'll heat up to 140 degrees.
Why 140 degrees? What's the benchmark of that?
Because we want to kill any pathogens that are in the manure, and we also want to kill the weed seeds.
Once it's been turned several times, it's ready to be delivered straight to their consumers. In terms of volume, how much fertilizer is coming out of here, say, a month?
Our company-wide, we move about 600,000 tons per year.
Wow.
So we're moving approximately from all different locations, we're moving about 50,000 tons a month.
50,000 tons a month.
Yeah.
Wow. Now that I understand how the fertilizer is made, I wanted to get a better understanding of how it is used. All right, so now I'm here with Gilbert at Benchmark Farms, and Gilbert, you use the product from Cascade Agronomics, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And tell me a little bit about what you use and how it helps you.
Well, I use, on this potato crop, 10 ton of cattle manure per acre.
10 tons per acre?
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
It is.
So, about how thick am I talking, like here on the ground here? How much manure is gonna end up?
Yeah, and that's why I say the application goes on like a paintbrush, is because it's so thin.
Okay.
So 10 ton an acre, there's 43,560 square feet in an acre, and 10 ton is just a feathering.
Because it's so widespread,
That's
you've
correct.
got a lot of land, and it doesn't, obviously then it doesn't take much. You don't need a huge layer of manure, you just need that thin layer to provide just enough nutrients to seep into the soil.
That's correct, Tomas.
What would happen if you decided to not use fertilizer? What would happen to your crops?
Without fertilizer, your production would be 10% of our current levels.
So it's a necessity.
It's absolutely.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Drew, Director of Kitchen Operations, Second Harvest here in Spokane, Washington. And from the look of the ingredients you prepare, I'm getting really excited. What are we making?
Oh, you should be. We're making a chicken pot pie.
That is so good. I love pot pies, so this is gonna be a lot of fun. Our first step is to make the crust. So we add some flour, salt, and sugar into a food processor. Then we cube a stick of cold butter, which helps get that flaky crust, and add it in.
So we're just going to turn this on and let this mix until it looks like coarse cornmeal.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, and it does. Once it gets that yellow from the butter, it starts to look like cornmeal.
Yeah, there it is. So now you can see that butter is no longer in big chunks, it is in small chunks.
Next, we add some ice water.
And this takes just a little bit. The great thing about a food processor is that it's going to combine all this for us. You know, guys in the kitchen, we like things to be pretty easy. So there he goes. Boom.
There it is. Once it starts popping around that bowl, you know you got it. Then we mold the dough into a small disc, wrap it in plastic wrap, and put it in the fridge to cool. Now we start on the filling.
So we're going to start with a fine russet potato here.
Look at that guy.
And we're going to peel it, we're going to dice it, and then we're going to parboil it just a little bit.
Okay, want me to start peeling it?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Okay. Now, russet. Why are we going to use russets today?
Well, we're using it mainly because it's a leftover ingredient. You know, I just made my mashed potatoes for the holiday season, and I happen to have a few left over, so I'm just going to use that. And really, you could use any kind of potato. I happen to like the texture that russets give, but if you wanted something, you know, with a little more body or something a little waxier, you could certainly use a fingerling or a red if that's what you had around.
Right, exactly.
And now that those are in, we need to start processing our onions, carrots, and celery.
Oh, that's like the Trinity.
The Trinity.
What do they call it?
The mirepoix.
The mirepoix.
Mirepoix,
There
yep.
you go.
Absolutely. So which one do you want to start with? Carrots?
Carrots.
Perfect. While you're working on that, I'm going to start with the onion.
All right, let's do it.
Another fine Washington-grown product.
Next, we melt some butter and slice up a little celery. Once our vegetables are cut, we add them to the pot.
So also, we've got our salt and pepper handy. We're going to want to season this as we add it to the pot.
Fantastic. Now once we've finished seasoning the vegetables, we add our leftover chicken. Next, we add our potatoes to the pot with some more salt and pepper.
Next thing we're going to do is add just a little bit of flour.
Flour, okay.
Yep.
Just to thicken it up a little bit?
Well, just to thicken it up, yeah. And you know, we could measure this out. I'm just going to add a little bit.
Then we add some chicken stock and frozen green beans.
And we're going to bring that to a boil, so I'm going to turn the heat up just a bit.
There we go.
Now you don't have to do this next bit, but I like to. We're just going to use a little bit of half and half to give it that creamy, you know, kind of consistency.
Very nice.
But it's totally optional.
Now while we wait for the filling to thicken, we grab our dough from the fridge, roll it out, and transfer it onto our pie plate.
It's a fine looking crust there, Tomas. Well done.
That's a nice thickness too. That's going to be tasty.
Absolutely.
Next, we scoop the filling onto our crust.
Yeah, this does make eating vegetables a whole lot of fun. My kids love pie.
Then we roll out the top crust and place it over the pie.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is kind of the fun part. So we're gonna use a fork to just kind of gently flute the edges all the way around. And we're just gonna kind of press down on the edge of that pie rim.
After we finish fluting, we cut off the excess dough and poke some vent holes in the crust.
Okay, so our last step here, we're gonna do a little egg wash. Now this is 1 egg beaten with 2 tablespoons of water.
2 tablespoons of water, and that's it.
That's it. And you're gonna have a little bit left over at the end, that's okay, but you just wanna liberally apply that egg mixture to that surface, and it's gonna give it just a beautiful, kind of glowing sheen when it's all done.
Then we bake our pie for the longest 30 minutes of our lives. Oh, that crust set nicely.
Yeah, that butter is just flaky and delicious, and that's really what you're looking for there.
Oh, look at that, guys.
Enjoy.
Oh, I'm going to. Look at that. It doesn't get any more classic comfort food than this.
Chicken pot pie.
Oh man, the potatoes are soft. The crust is just flaky. You know, if you just made this for me before I even showed up, I would have no idea that this was actually leftovers.
Oh, it's fantastic. And this is just things that were in the refrigerator after a big meal.
Right. Oh, thank you so much.
Great work, thank you.
This is fantastic. To get Drew's chicken pot pie recipe, head over to our website at wagrown.com.
Since such wonderful and nutritious food comes from our state, it's a good thing that none of it ever has to go to waste. That's it for this edition of Washington Grown. Thanks for watching.